Brian. He's a vice president at data strategy and architecture at Warner Bros. So his title is Digital Consumer Intelligence at Scale. So please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Brian, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do I use this? This one? Okay.
Try not to get too close to that speaker because we'll get a little feedback. So
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending today. My name is Brian Kursar. I work at Warner Brothers. I head up consumer intelligence and data warehouse across all of our different systems. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Warner Brothers, what we do, and more specifically what we do around big data and how we use big data to solve problems for our business units. Real quick about Warner Brothers. So I'm not supposed to get near that one? Okay. We stand at the forefront of every aspect of the entertainment industry. So we do films, we do television, we also do video games as well as OTT offerings. We also have a comic book line. So if you heard of DC Comics, which I'm sure most people have, that's another piece to the puzzle. We are under the Time Warner Company of umbrella, and so we have a lot of partners under Time Warner that we share data with, a lot of data. DC Comics, TMZ, HBO, as well as Turner Broadcast, the CW, Boomerang, et cetera. And so the business units that my group works directly with, so we have a Warner Brothers Pictures group. So last year, or actually, last year we for the 15th year in a row, we crossed the $1 billion mark. We have over 7,000 features that Warner Brothers has produced to date. On the television side, we've done, been number one in the last 10 years. Who here has watched the show The Flash? Awesome. Arrow? All right. Big Bang Theory? Okay. There we go. So that's so we actually produce all those as well as a number of other TV shows too. We do consumer products, so everything that goes through licensing, whether it's your toys, Lego. You've seen the Lego Batman. We do games as well. Right now, our games group is separated, to a certain extent. We do a lot of data exchanges, but they actually have their own consumer intelligence and data warehousing groups to serve them. And then most recently, we've started doing studio tours as part of our data exchange and working with the Leavesden studio. So who here is a Harry Potter fan? Awesome. So in Leavesden, they have this tour. It's called The Magic of Harry Potter, where you can go and really see all of the props and the different stages. They preserved all of that. It's an amazing tour. And we actually work with them on the data side around consumer intelligence to help on some of their marketing initiatives. We also have a studio tour here in Burbank as well that takes you around the entire lot. But really, at the end of the day, what does it mean from a data perspective? Well, it's a lot of data. And it is just enormous. I mean, everything from, how much are we spending on our advertisements? What are we seeing from a ad buy versus an ad sales? We have so many different web properties. And web properties really kind of help us understand consumer engagement, right? It's everything about the web logs and the billions and billions of transactions to help us understand this consumer landed on this web page, this consumer landed on this page. And because of the page that they've landed on, we're able to understand who that person is, not who they are, but from an anonymous perspective. And we're able to target some of our marketing dollars better. But where we come in really is, and kind of the heroes of, the show is my engineering team, who really kind of puts all of this together, right? To be able to kind of connect all of this data to really kind of make it meaningful and provide that context. And so when I talk about context, and how we do this, our existing stack and what we've been building today over the last year, it kind of starts off with storage. We push a lot of data to Amazon S3. Once that data is there, it gets picked up. We would then transform that to Parquet to be able to hit it at scale. Data is still stored as well as processed in Amazon Redshift and Teradata. Some of the tools we've been bringing on over the last year, Kafka, Spark for doing all of our processing, then Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is actually an interesting product. Most people, when they think of Elasticsearch, they think of search, but this is actually a tool that can help you do queries like aggregate queries or refinement queries at scale over billions and billions of records in just mere seconds. And it doesn't really take a lot to do. It's probably about anywhere from a 14 to 20 node cluster. I think Tanzir over there is probably the best person to ask and where we are with that. But what we've seen a really great usage is that Warner Brothers deals with titles, right? And everything is title based. So, we have this challenge where we need to understand what, a Harry Potter franchise looks like. And so in the UK, they called the first movie Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And in the US, it's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And so to be able to do ad hoc title queries based on natural text is where we see Elasticsearch shining. It's also really good for things like social media as well as log analysis. So anywhere really you have this opportunity to really kind of put natural text queries or Boolean queries, that's where Elastic comes in. And then of course we use Hive to do queries at scale on our clusters. From a data discovery perspective, we use a couple different tools. Tableau is one of them. We also have brought in recently Kibana. So Kibana sits on top of Elasticsearch as part of their Elastic Stack. And then MicroStrategy is a product we've been using for quite some time. From a coding perspective, we've established two standards. Python is used for a majority of kind of the data transforms, pandas, putting things in data frames, doing things that you don't really need a very large cluster for. So things that we do, that maybe is 30 million records, we'll use Python for it, right? We're not going to just throw anything into Spark just because we can, right? Where we see Spark being used is where you're getting into like the multi-billion record data sets, like the weblogs. And so then we use Scala mostly because it's a hell of a lot easier to debug in Scala versus Python. And finally, to kind of round out our stack, we've most recently started looking into doing real-time visualization, so streaming data into our clusters and then being able to look at this data in real time. And part of the reason why we do that is all around awareness. And so we're looking at putting in different types of visualizations in our atriums, much like, I don't know if anyone's ever visited Facebook, but they have this really nice visualization where you walk in and things are just kind of pinging and you can see the transactions that are happening. We're doing a similar thing where we could really kind of show our business events that are happening in real time, not from an analytics perspective, but more so from a awareness perspective. Just operations it would be another reason, but we're looking at it more so from a perspective of making people understand there's a lot of data that's going through our systems, and these volumes equate to something, right? Whether it's it's a number of peer-to-peer downloads, or it's a number of social media tweets, etc. Let's see, where are we at? So when we start looking at some of the challenges, we realize that connecting the dots isn't easy. You saw that really huge diagram we did, but what we get is this question that kind of comes out. I want a 360 franchise view across our entire lines of business, the multiple industries. So when you're looking at something like Harry Potter, from a franchise view, it's not just the movies. It's everything from your movies, the sequels, the spin-offs like Fantastic Beasts. You have things like the home entertainment releases, digital downloads, streaming. When we give it to Netflix, how long they have it for the window, and then what we can understand, at least from an engagement and where the revenue is on that side. Television, if it goes to ABC, the video games, consumer products. We have theme parks as well. As I mentioned, the Leavesden studio was one. And all of that really needs to be tied up in a nice bow so you can really kind of make some sense of it. And so whenever we get this question, we were not able to answer this until we started really kind of pulling some of these data sets together. And then finally, the big piece, social, and that's, I think, the part I'm going to concentrate on, because that's really proved the most difficult to kind of knock out. Because when you look at this huge web of things, social is one of these pieces where it's unstructured data. And unstructured data means that you have to be able to classify the data. So the questions that that come up is what is the impact of a trailer drop or a social media comment, and how does that impact theatrical box office sales or our back catalog? We saw one a couple months back where, who here is a Blade Runner fan? Blade Runner? Awesome. Okay. So the retirement date of one of the replicants happened to be, I think, 3 months ago. And actually, what happened was social media went just nuts. They said, Roy Batty, rest in peace. And they had this whole thing, about the replicant, passed away, because that's what it said in the movie. The date in 2016 was his actual retirement date. That got picked up by a number of different publications. Mashable did a story on it. Social had multiple tweets on it. At the end of the day, right, we saw things just spike. And so, if we would have been looking at that and understanding that beforehand, that would have allowed us to then place ads in places so that once people actually saw that, right, they would then naturally go, because it was a one-click to purchase that Blu-ray set. So you have the organic version, and then you have what we could do if we had the insight beforehand to really start plan and really kind of leverage some of the organic things that are happening in social. So here's a story I'll tell you about experience when I first started with the company. We started working with social, and we wanted to classify data so we could really kind of understand the share of voice across multiple titles. And I'll walk you through our experience with the title Pan. Actually, Pan and Creed. So we thought this would be pretty easy. You decide that, okay, we have this filter that you hook onto the the API. You put Creed as well as a hashtag Creed movie, Pan, hashtag Pan movie. You say, okay, we're pretty good. We then, normalize and say, okay, Creed, anything Creed or hashtag Creed movie is equal to Creed, so that way it pops up on, the charts real nicely. We then wrote that into our index. We did some noun phrase extraction. So those of you familiar with text analytics, so noun phrases are essentially pulling out some of the key terms or the noun phrases within a sentence or a tweet, so you can build out like a really nice tag cloud. We finally then aggregated them, threw those into Tableau to visualize. And so we're pretty happy. It took us a few weeks to kind of get all of that situated. And finally, at the end of the day, we got our results, and we were really excited to share them with our home entertainment and our marketing groups. And here were our results. Bread pudding. Video games, Assassin's Creed, Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan's close, but yeah, so we realized we had a problem, and it was a pretty big problem. So Creed the movie is not equal to Creed the rock band, and is not also equal to Assassin's Creed. But because we did these very remedial text queries, because truth be told, the API only allows you to do a multi-or when you're paying for the free stuff and some of the other things that they provide. But at the end of it, really, you don't have very much you can do, so you have to really take it into a post-processing perspective. The other thing was that pan is actually the Spanish word for bread. So apparently during that week when we were doing our polls, there was one hell of a bread pudding recipe out there that must have gone viral. Actually, I have it. I could share it if you're really interested. But the bottom line is that we realized we had to do something, obviously, right? Disambiguate, and really to remove that uncertainty, right? Or to make this a very unique piece of data that they would attribute to our actual movie Creed, right? Because trying to take actions when something's going through the roof and you find out that it's a bread pudding, recipe and not your film is definitely something that is just it's inaccurate. It's noise. It's garbage. So we created a couple rounds of algorithms. One was to identify how ambiguous was a title, because we had probably about 200 titles that we were having to go after. And so we realized that you have your unique title, Batman versus Superman, pretty unique, right? Your ambiguous title, Creed, and you have just the very ambiguous titles, word her. That one we didn't go. I think we dropped that one. That one was just not worth really building anything on. To do this, you really have to take a couple approaches. We did like a dictionary, word count, frequency, but really we leveraged Wikipedia. And the great thing about Wikipedia is that this is just the UI version. You can call the API, and it'll actually bring you back the results, and then you can start doing counts and start making some assumptions. So that way we didn't have to have someone score each one by one. Now, we could have sent that to Mechanical Turk, but we opted to go down this route. Calling Wikipedia to really kind of understand, okay, Batman vs. Superman, okay, that's unique. Anything with more than two, probably most likely ambiguous, and so now we're going to have to add additional work to really disambiguate. When we did that, we take Creed, and we start looking at the concepts around Creed, right? Creed, our movie, not Creed, in the context of anything else, but just our movie. So the concepts are the top talent. So now we started using terms like Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester Stallone, right? So now Creed, the word Creed with Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone has a high probability of being contextually correct as a correct classification for our movie. We also look at the character names, right? So we have metadata that we tie back to. And so then we and all of this is actually within our databases, so it was easy to kind of build an algorithm to say, okay, let me do the top build talent, top characters, so like Rocky and Apollo. We then used some terms like movie, film, so Creed within proximity of the word movie, high probability unless there was a documentary on the band, but still, it really kind of got us a lot closer. Then you do other concepts like boxing, right? There was definitely something that wouldn't come up in a video game about Assassin's Creed. But then to combat that, we actually then did some exclusions where we said, okay, we're going to remove terms like the word band and assassins only because we had gone through this and we understood this was incorrect. And so this is the part that's a little more manual. There are ways you can get it through the Wikipedia. We didn't actually automate that piece. But this was kind of like a fail-safe. It didn't really do too much after we put the includes in, but it did help in some cases. Finally, we also looked at additional things. So any sort of unique ID. So for instance, hashtag Creed movie, unless someone hijacks that hashtag, that would be unique to our title. There's also Facebook pages or video IDs. So, for example, this comment right here. So he says, best movie of the year. I watched it. I just watched it again yesterday, and it was my 4th time. By itself, it means nothing. We don't know what movie they're talking about. But if this appears on the Creed movie page, we can attribute that to a comment about the movie and a positive comment about the movie. So we use things like the movie URL within our algorithm to kind of pull all of that together. So we also noticed that we had to do that to trap everything else because 88% of the comments on our Facebook page don't actually have the word Creed in it. So they're talking about, I love you guys, right? You guys, well, the context is Warner Brothers Creed movie. It all comes down to really context. Even similarly, something like this, right? So if I post that and I don't have access to the metadata and the description, that post by itself means nothing. If 500 people like it or 500 people, comment on that, that piece right there, right, in the URL, that YouTube ID maps directly to our trailer, and therefore, if I find that anywhere in Twitter, anywhere in the world, right, within a social media space without the word Creed or Creed movie, that is actually something that people are engaging with our movie because it's that unique. So our pipeline was pretty straightforward. We had a social API. We applied what I call the L1 or level 1 title filter. We used Python here. Python was the quickest way. They have a lot of libraries for Twitter already, so we were able to just hit that. Here's what the code looked like, kind of from a perspective of this is kind of my pseudocode version without giving you guys tons of code here. It just basically says from the API pull anything that has Creed movie, Creed film, or Creed. First level filter. Then we actually do what I call the L2 or level 2 concept. So all those concepts, we now translate those, and we will now write Scala version of a Boolean query, which was looks a little like this right here. So we capture the multi-ors, right? We capture the ands, and we capture the nots. And within that, you build essentially a wrapper so that now you can pass that to Spark, and then you're able to do that at scale. And so then here's how it kind of broke down at the end of the day. So anything unique, right? Top level. And then we say, okay, that or anything that is near, or just the word Creed by itself, near any, and then we use Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan, Michael Jordan, Tessa Thompson, so all of the talent, the hashtags, the concepts, it's, even our Warner Brothers, and we say within 10 words. We usually want to do a close proximity just to be sure. Sometimes with some of like the social media platforms like Facebook, you want to do a little bit larger, but for Twitter, usually about within 10. And then we also did the knots, like Assassin's Band. We also did like the Pirate Bay torrent, stuff that is piracy, not necessarily true consumer engagement. And so after we did all that, and then we ran that same process of noun phrase extraction, and we pulled that out and we displayed that on our Tableau report. We sent that over to Elasticsearch as well as Parquet. And we use it for other models as well. This is what it looked like. So we were a lot more dead on. And I think that's the great thing about being able to kind of iterate across these large data sets. Just to making sure that you really have clean data that is contextual to what you're looking for. 10 minutes? All right. So real quick, I'm going to show you one more thing in a quick demo. We do this recently for anti-piracy. We are now pulling in data where people are doing peer-to-peer downloads, and we look at the data that comes in. We work with a company called Movie Labs. They push us a file to our S3 bucket. That data then we pull that into Spark RED. We apply matching logic, and we write that back to Elasticsearch, and then we also visualize that. And I'll do a quick demo. And the interesting thing about piracy is it's quite a problem, but we are able to show this from a, and this is what I talked about earlier, what we do with real-time data, is that we provide these visualizations to really kind of help people understand awareness of what's happening within the company. And so one thing I'd ask, please don't take any pictures of this one because this is a prototype. But I'll just show you a quick. And so this is kind of our you can see right here, these are people downloading all content, not just ours. Here you can see WB titles and Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and that's in the 5 million range. This is for this week. And so I think that, I know we're running low on time, so I'm going to, yeah. Hey, who said that? Who said that? And so we have a careers booth here today. We are expanding our big data team. If you are interested in joining WB, please come down to the career site. We also are raffling off an Amazon Echo, so hope to hear from you today. And if there's any questions, thank you.